Okay, and we're back with part two. Apologies for that. I ran out of time, or perhaps I hit the wrong button and I cut that off. I realized anyway that I was rambling, so I'll try and keep this one a lot shorter. In the previous part, we were talking about great channeled works and how they relate to spirituality. I mentioned the Law of One, the Ra Contact, and I also mentioned the Seth Speaks books. And the third major one that I would like to discuss here is the Bringers of the Dawn series by a lady called Barbara Marchinik, I believe. And she contacted or was contacted by a group of beings who called themselves the Pleiadians. Once again, beings of a higher vibration or existing in higher realms than human beings from the Pleiadian system, and they came and they gave us great spiritual wisdom and great spiritual philosophy. And just like the other two, once again they gave great spiritual laws, great cosmic laws, and give us an idea of humanity's place within the cosmos and humanity's history. So for me personally, those are the three main works of spiritual enlightenment and spiritual knowledge. A few others that I would like to talk about are the Caspian Experiment. The website is by the same name by a lady called Laura Knight. I can't pronounce her last name, so I'm not even going to bother. The difference with these is that instead of using the art of channeling or the art of trance, is that she and her team use a Ouija board to contact these beings who identified themselves as the Caspians. Basically, they are us from the future, is what they stated. And they come from the Caspian constellation or sector of the galaxy. Interesting thing about them is that they also claimed that they were part of the Pleiadians, or came from the Pleiadians, as they moved closer through time and space towards the planet of Earth, as they apparently took on these names for themselves. So we really, at this point in time, actually don't quite know who or what they actually are, as I haven't finished the entire communications from these. I did find it a bit jarring in comparison to the Ra Contact, and there was a lot of confusion and stuff that I couldn't take within their channelings. But reading the later or more recent concepts of the Law of One material, as explained by Quo, I found myself going back to some of the things that I disregarded and found confusing within the Caspian's channelings, having a greater understanding within them. So again, that is another great piece of channeled work. As I said, I am only scratching the surface here, so please do not get angry or get dismayed by myself leaving out your favorite piece of channeled writing or channeled entity. They seem to be very, very frequent nowadays. Simply go onto YouTube or any other video hosting website, library, or any of those other ones, and type in channelings or starseeds or anything like that there, and you'll find a whole host of people in contact or claiming to be in contact with all these advanced beings, these star beings, these alien races, higher dimensional beings. There really is, it's no end. It can be very confusing at times. The one thing I would turn around and say is, when reading any of this channeled material, is if any ideas or concepts that are given within this work seem odd or off to you or don't feel right to you, then simply discard it. You're only meant to take on board with whatever resonates with you, whatever feels right to you. This is the thing about spirituality, is it's not from the head, it's from the heart. And so what feels right to the heart is what is your truth. Now, it may be that some of the concepts that are explained or talked about within these great spiritual channeled work may never be for you, or just may be for you at a later time. As I already explained about how I've revisited some of the Caspian material. So don't get disheartened, don't get dismayed, just simply take what resonates with you at the time, and perhaps at a later stage you may revisit some of the other concepts. Another perhaps great channeled work of a perhaps different nature is a series of books known as the Silver Birch material, and this was a channeled work by an individual under trance, Maurice Watkins, I believe his name is. Forgive me if I've got that wrong. And this was Maurice's spirit guide, who came to him in the guise of a Native American Indian, perhaps a guise in which they felt Maurice would be more comfortable with, or which the spirit was most identified with in one of his incarnations. And once again, over the course of many books, Silver Birch gives an insight into the spirit world and what it's like to be a spirit, and the nature of what one does in a spirit world, or the spirit world, and the nature of incarnations, along with a great deal of other information. So yeah, you're free to check out that material too. As I said, there are many great works. There are many great philosophies. There are many great branches. There are many great sects within spirituality. As a matter of fact, I would say that it completely outstrips religion in regards to its depth and its complexity. And there are some who have taken some of these concepts that have been come to them and formed an actual religion out of them. I'm thinking of the Spiritual Nationalist Union, which is based in the UK, and I think operates under a slightly different name in the US of A. And they live by 7 principles that came to them from Emma Hardy's Britain, and she laid out 7 principles of spiritualism, and if one was to attend their schools of learning, if one was to attend their services, then one would learn quite a lot and understand and hear about these 7 principles, which are their guiding principles. But as I said, ultimately, true spirituality has no creed, it has no dogma, it has no holy works or no laws that are written down in stone. True spirituality encourages the seeker to explore and find their own identity and find their own truth and their own way of living upon the planet, and find their own concept of what it means to be a human at this time. 2 other great books, or 2 other great concepts that I would like to talk about, if I could just find them, are one person who is known within the spiritual community, a lady of quite great fame by the name of Dolores Cannon. Dolores Cannon was a hypnotherapist who specialized in past life regression, and whilst practicing this technique, was able to regress people through numerous past lives, and took her learning and her therapy, or her hypnosis, into areas that perhaps were unheard of at the time, and which are still quite astonishing now. Not only did she discover and had people undergo and relive past lives on this planet, but also lives upon other planets, and was able to contact, through people under hypnotherapy, great figures of the past, such as Nostradamus. So she was a trailblazer, and her work is very, very well known. The other one I would like to talk about, who is a similar hypnotherapist, is a guy called, or perhaps I should just even mention books, is his most famous book is Journey of Souls, Life Between Lives. And if you just give me 1 second, I will find his name because I don't have the information to hand. Yes, it is a guy called Michael Newton, and once again he was a hypnotherapist who eventually started specializing in past life regression, taking patients through multiple past lives, and then eventually discovered that he could take people into that realm, which is the life between lives, which we call the spirit world, or the inner planes, or that holding stage for souls between incarnations. And through his many works, because once again, like the Dolores Cannon, he published great and further books, he was able to gain great clarity and great information into the nature of, as I said, the spirit world, what one does in the spirit world, what learnings, what teachings that one undertakes in the spirit world. And certainly in his first book, Journey of Souls, he is able to take you from the point of death right up until a soul or a spirit decides upon a new incarnation into this human life. So everything in between that there is absolutely fascinating, and once again, great insight and great depth, and a great understanding of what lies for us after death. So yes, that was Michael Newton and Dolores Cannon. Again, I will publish links to all of this material in the blurb, and hopefully then people will be able to look this stuff in for themselves. So I guess to round this off is, as I said, for me, the concept of true spirituality is that one does not conform to any dogma, to any creed. One can seek to live a spiritual life in as many different ways as there are human beings. There are ultimately no right, no wrong, no right path, no wrong path. There is simply a multitude of paths, a multitude of seeking. The most important thing to do for leading a spiritual life is to simply start seeking, to start asking the questions, to start asking for answers. And if one continues down this path, you will find that many great answers are revealed to you, that you will find great truths, and you will be shepherded, shall we say, into information, that you will discover things that will be put into your path, and quite a lot of your questions will be satisfied to your own satisfaction. But I guess just to round this off is that I would say that, again, what a lot of people's mistake for spirituality, once you turn around and tell them that you're a spiritualist, is that they expect you to be pious. I have had that thrown back at me so many times. Well, you're not being very spiritual now, you're not particularly spiritual. And I would turn around and say to this here is that, once again, true spirituality should teach you that you're not meant to be pious. You are here to live a life of flaws. If you were here as a perfect spiritual being, you would have nothing to learn. The point of reincarnation is that you keep coming back into your physical body in order to learn lessons, in order to learn the opposite of what you learned before in a previous life. Perhaps you were a rich person in a previous life. This life that you may take on now, you may be destitute, you may be poor. In a previous life, you may be controlling and domineering. In this life here, you may have to learn the opposite. Now, it's a hell of a lot more complex than that, but again, it's not meant to be a life of pastness. Of course, you can lead that life if you want, but once again, perhaps in a previous life or a future life, you'll have to be the opposite of that. So it's about underlearning lessons for spiritual growth. Learning opposites, learning balance, not about pastness. You're meant to be flawed, you're meant to be this non-perfect figure. And in that regard, I would say the true spirituality has a lot in common with shamanism and with the concept of yin and yang as explained in the Tao or the Tao, in which we have both the black and the white as defined by positive and negative or good and bad. And once again, in the white we have the black, and in the black we have the white. There are no extremes, there are no true completely pure, completely evil people. There are only a sliding scale of polarity, and this is what these great teachings will tell us, is that certainly we live a life of polarity. We live a life of either being positive or being negative, of being male, being female, being night and day, passive aggressive, soft, hard, hot, cold. And it's about finding our own path within this system of polarity, which can then be further expanded or extrapolated into being a being of service to other people, which means living a life of helping other people, working on yourself and being an inspiration to others, giving aid whenever you can, or being in service to yourself, being domineering, controlling, being manipulative, using others for your own personal gain. Ultimately, at the end of the day, each path is as good as the other, and that does not mean that there are certainly no punishments or certainly no readjustments if one decides to live a life in service to themselves. This is the law of karma. The law of karma gives an opportunity for someone to re-amend or readjust those actions which are harmful to others. But ultimately, at the end of the day, each path is as valid as the other. But again, you have to ask yourself if this is the life that you want to lead. Do you want to be a positive, inspiring person that lives their life in dedication and to helping others, or do you want to be someone who manipulates, who abuses, who domineers other people? If it's not within your nature, it's not within your nature. But ultimately, everything in spirituality, in life, is a opportunity for the Creator to express free will. This is the great universal concept of free will. You may do what you want. It's entirely up to you. There's no one forcing you. There's no one commanding you to do the actions that you take out. But everything in creation is an opportunity for the Creator to know itself. And in this regard, we are 360-degree beings. And I'll just finish with this beautiful quote from Quo, which came in the 5th of December in 1996. And in this quote, Quo says, "Into that light, you will take your entire universal 360-degree self. You shall not be judged on the contents of your heart, for all have light and dark within. You shall be judged by the self on your capacity to accept an increase of light." And with that beautiful quote, I will leave it there. And I hope that both parts of these podcasts have been informative, have been enlightening, that you have got something out of them. And I thank you once again from the bottom of my heart for listening and joining in. And I hope once again that you'll continue with me on this journey forward as we explore and develop more spiritual concepts. So bye for now. Thanks.